I reviewed the gorgeous LAiV or LAiV Harmony DAC, I copped some criticism from some people who thought I was biased towards it by either its gorgeous looks or by the hype surrounding it. I think perhaps those people didn't watch the video properly. I did really like the Harmony DAC, but I didn't think it was the best DAC for its price. I thought it was a nice option in a range of other great DACs and one that was worthy of consideration. Well, that might have just changed. I don't remember if I mentioned this in the Harmony DAC review, but if you look at the top of it, there are 3 little gold insets in the top surface. Those inserts are designed to accept the spikes on the bottom of other products that LAiV had planned to release. And one of them is here. Meet the LAiV HP2A headphone amp and preamp. Once again, it's a statement in industrial design, not just in how it looks, but also the quality and the thoughtfulness of the interface as well. At $2,700 it's definitely a premium product, but it's still far from the summit of consumer headphone and preamp products. Despite that, you're getting a world-class exterior design and some pretty cool internal designs too. The HP2A is a fully balanced Class A preamp and Class AB headphone amp. There's a physical toggle switch that makes it really easy to select the outputs that you're using. You can have headphones only, preamp only, or both running at once. Volume control is handled by a discrete resistor ladder, which means you're going to get precise volume matching at the lowest volumes all the way through to the highest volumes, and it also means you're not going to get any noise that's introduced by some potentiometers. It uses 8 Exicon MOSFET chips for the amplification stage, and the HP2A can produce just shy of 12 watts into a 32 ohm headphone via its balanced outputs. That means it's going to drive any traditional headphone on the planet, including something like a Modhouse Tungsten. And that power is delivered by 4.4mm, 4-pin XLR, or 6.3mm sockets, but the 6.3mm socket being single-ended does have less power output. Of course, all of this is lovely on paper, but we do still need to see how it translates into actual sonic performance. Before we do though, there's just a couple more things to mention. Firstly, the HP2A has 12-volt trigger input and output on the back of the device, and that means you can hook it up to your DAC, your power amp, or your streamer to use the 12-volt trigger system to switch everything on or off at once. And if you do want to connect multiple sources like DACs, streamers, maybe phono preamps, you can use the special socket on the back of the HP2A to connect either an input extender that grants you a couple of extra sockets, or a dedicated phono stage. The extender looks like this. As you can see, it's very compact. It's actually a little bit too compact, and heavy cables hanging out the back will tend to want to pull it off the desk, but I believe LAiV are working on a cable holder system that's going to give it a bit of support at the back and stop it tipping over. What's great though is it means you can have a compact system and then hide away some additional inputs if you need them. But let's move on from the specs and the features on paper and talk about how the HP2A sounds. And to revisit what I said earlier, one of the reasons we need to talk carefully about sound here is that the Harmony DAC is also one of the best designed DACs I've ever seen, but it's not the best sounding DAC I've ever heard. It sounds nice, as I said earlier, but maybe it's not the best possible sounding DAC for the price. I think the HP2A has gone one better than the Harmony DAC. Not only is it a gorgeous looking device, but it does sound exceptional as well. There's still a problem though. At the price of the HP2A, there's some very strong competition. One example is the HiFiMan Prelude headphone amp and preamp. Comparing these two shows the Prelude to be a slightly fuller, weightier sounding amp down low. Beyond some subtle tonal differences though, I was having trouble properly differentiating these two amps. And that was partly because I was having to take the time to swap the analog interconnects each time. I was using the Harmony DAC for this testing, and so it was over to the Shelly Labs Daisy DAC and its 2 pairs of XLR outputs. With the ability to now switch almost instantly between amplifiers, all was revealed. Yes, the tonalities of the HP2A and the Prelude are quite similar, but their presentations of the sound are quite different. The Prelude spreads the sound a bit wider across the soundstage, and that's true for both listening to headphones and speakers, as is everything I'm about to say. The HP2A extracts a bit of extra detail, texture and clarity from the opening bass guitar in HiFiMan Harmony. And that continues with the muted rhythm guitar plucking notes in the center to right hand channel on this track. There's just more nuance, a little bit more insight from the HP2A. It's actually really quite amazing how similar and different these two amps are. Another difference that I noticed as I swapped back to the Prelude was that the Prelude brings the singer a little bit closer to the listener. It's a more intimate overall sound. Beyond that though, I was still grappling with what the differences between these two were, because they're obvious, but they're also intangible. They were hard things to nail down and describe in words. More time and more tracks reveals that the Prelude is definitely the thicker and smoother sounding amp. It also has a slightly more forward sound, a slightly more intimate sound than the HP2A. But it's not to say that the Prelude is lacking in detail and texture, and that's where it gets tricky to separate these two. What does pull the HP2A ahead in its sense of clarity, insight and nuance is it has a slightly more forward presentation, or a slightly more emphasized presentation, very slightly, in the upper mid-range. And overall, as I listen more and more across these amps, the HP2A comes across as the more transparent and resolving headphone amp here, and therefore preamp as well. On the other hand, the Prelude delivers more sense of weight and presence in vocals that some people will really enjoy. The Prelude can make a vocal feel more tangible. The HP2A can give you more insight into the details of that vocal. And that's a key point for me about the HP2A. I find that it allows me to explore the music more. It opens up the details, it opens up the whole experience, and lets me mentally wander through the sound better. Ultimately, both of these amps are fantastic. Of the two though, I would choose the HP2A, and that's just because I like its sense of clarity and transparency over the slightly richer, thicker, smoother sounding Prelude. If you were deliberately wanting a bit of extra weight and smoothness though, the Prelude is still excellent. And so let's revisit again what I said at the beginning of the video. I said earlier that the Harmony DAC was excellent. It was very, very good, but it wasn't clearly the best DAC on the market. I also said that that might have changed, so let me explain what I meant. With the addition of the HP2A and the ability to stack the headphone amp on top of or beneath the DAC, however you want to do it, LAiV have produced a simply magnificent stack of DAC, preamp, and headphone amp. You'll have an incredibly difficult time at the price finding a stack of components that looks as good, that is as great to interact with, that's as small and that sounds as good as the Harmony DAC and the HP2A combined. To me, this is a reference stack when you account for all those aspects. And by the way, if you weren't already familiar with the Harmony DAC, it also costs $2,700 US, so the total stack here is $5,400 US. Not cheap, but very hard to match when you consider size, looks, interface, and performance. Not only that, but I've just had word from LAiV that they've got other products on the horizon, including a digital-to-digital converter, which is going to further improve the sound again. And so this could end up being a truly epic ecosystem if you want to buy into a setup that all looks great, performs well, and is wonderful to interact with. I think LAiV are onto a really good thing. And so as always, I've put links in the description where you can check out more. They're not affiliate links, I just think these are nice products. And if you're sold on the amp and you want to know more about the DAC now, I've got my video up here where I reviewed the Harmony DAC. So check that one out now to see why the two of these are such a brilliant match together. For now, thank you to YouTube channel members, thank you to channel Patreon members, and thank you to those of you that leave super thanks on videos like this one. And until next time, happy listening, be kind to each other, and I'll see you here again soon on Passion for Sound.